Hi YouTube, Engineer Boy 100. Today I'm going to show you how to remove and replace the inner tie rod end on a 1994 Toyota Corolla 7AFE or 4AFE. These little tie rod ends are oftentimes difficult to diagnose, and a lot of people don't even know they exist. They only know about the outer tie rod end. There's two tie rod ends on this vehicle. The inner tie rod end here is inside, attached to the steering control arm, and this outer ball joint is usually what people are familiar with and what they often change. And I'll show you that when we get down to the car. This is just the new one that doesn't have it on there. So today we're just going to be replacing the inner tie rod end, but you have to remove both in order to replace this one. So the symptoms for a tie rod end failure vary. Okay, it can be anything from vibration, shaking, grinding sound, like a grinding sound when you turn the wheel. You hear like a grinding sound. The insides of these are worn out and damaged. Another tricky little symptom, the one that I actually experienced on this particular vehicle, is my daughter's car, is there was shaking in the front wheels, but no shaking of the steering wheel. And you're like, well, how is that possible? The tie rod end is connected to the steering linkage. Here's how. This portion on the end wore out, okay? And the tire is attached out here. So as the tire shakes, because it's not stabilized by this being attached all the way up, it shakes from here to here, but it doesn't shake from here up. So what you will experience is a more violent shaking here than you detect in the steering wheel. Now, because it is still attached, you will notice vibration, but it won't be of the same violent nature as the shaking of the wheel. The wheel will be shaking much more than the vibration that you feel in the steering wheel. A lot more than the vibration you feel in the steering wheel. That's an indication that you have a bad tie rod end. Now, how do you detect that? How do you actually diagnose that better than just, oh, well, I think it's a tie rod end? The best way that I can recommend, and the way that I did it to diagnose this one, was you need a second person. Take the tire off, go down and shake the steering wheel back and forth. Get a stethoscope and put it on the tie rod, okay? And you can hear clicking and moving, and you can also detect it. Put your hand on the outside to see if it's the outside that's clicking. Also put the stethoscope on the outside to see if you can hear it directly. Put your hand on the actual tie rod when the wheel is being turned back and forth, like so, about this fast and about this hard. Turn the steering wheel back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, like that, okay? And you can detect whether the movement is here or here by listening, by observing, and by feeling. When I say listening, I mean listening with a stethoscope with it on, in contact with this. Now, that point being made, I'm going to skip way ahead to the actual removal and installation. You will need, on this vehicle anyway, you will need one of these specialized thin wrenches. This is a very thin wrench, okay? I bought this many years ago for removing the V-belts and to change, tensioners, pulley tensioners. But this is 32 millimeters. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. Probably can't. But it's 32 millimeter, very thin wrench. You're going to have difficulty, and you may risk damaging your tie rod end if you try to use, a pipe wrench or vice grip or something else. Get the right tool. Now, a 32 inch. I also have a 32 millimeter open end wrench, but they're too thick. They will not fit between the mount surface and the tie rod end. So you need a thin one. Get this in advance. It'll save you a lot of headaches going forward. So that's enough talking. Let's go down to the car, jack it up, and remove and replace the inner. I have to take off the outer tie rod end as well. So I have this set of ball joint removers, and I think for this vehicle I'll be using this one. I'm not sure. We'll see when we get down to the car. But I wanted to make sure I include this quick point of additional tools that you will need besides the 32 millimeter open end wrench. All right, so let's go get the car jacked up and get right in. Okay, we got the car jacked up, we got the tires off. I'm gonna show you in advance what I'm gonna do, because from every angle I can look at it, there was no way to videotape while I'm doing it and actually have you be able to see it. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take off this outer ball joint here, okay? And I might be able to show you that. The second thing I'm gonna have to do is there's an inner dust boot here. Okay, and it has clips on the outside, and there's also one on the inside. Go around over here to see if I can show you the inside. It has a screw on it. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Okay, so that's the inside boot, and there's a screw that you'll have to remove. And I don't think you're gonna be able to see that while I'm working. So I'm showing you now. I'm gonna take those loose, and then we're going to take it out of the bench, and I'm going to show you why I don't loosen this nut. Okay, you take the outside loose. There's a cotter key under here. Okay, and a nut. You take this off. I'll use the little puller to take this off the hub, but you don't want to move this because you're going to use the distance between the end and the center of this to kind of get your alignment back on, at least enough so where you can get it street worthy to drive to the alignment shop. That's really important, and that's the main point I wanted to stress. That's what we'll do next on the bench after I get this off. Okay, first we remove this cotter key. See if we can get that out. There we go. And we have 17mm nut on here. So see if we can get that loose. Perfect. Okay, well, I was going to use this tie rod end tool here, but turns out it wasn't stuck. Okay, so now we can take loose the boot and use the tool, the 32mm open end wrench tool, to remove the inner tie rod. Okay, so the outer ball joint on the right hand side didn't come loose as easily on the left, so we actually are going to have to use a little ball joint puller. And this is what it looks like installed. So I want you to see that. Okay. And I'm going to let you watch me take it loose. There you go. That one was good and stuck. And that's how you remove it. Okay, I got the boot loose. The outside portion is just a clip ring. That's pretty easy. The inside portion, it's this screw here. Now there's not a lot of room to get to it, so I actually tried to use this screwdriver, this little bitty screwdriver. Not enough room. So I ended up using this little tiny screwdriver to get that that nut loose on that hose clamp. All right, so that's what it looks like inside. So the next thing we'll be doing is using that 32mm to unscrew that inner portion of the tie rod. One other quick tip before I let you go. Once you get that this end here loose, this is still a little bit stuck to get off. So the easiest way to get it off is not to just pull and crank or rip it, is to just rotate it like this. Rotating it like that loosens it up and helps you to pull it off much easier than any other method that I tried. So there you go. Okay, so now we're underneath, and this is what it looks like from the bottom side. See if you can see that. I have to kind of show you guys things in between doing them. Sorry about that, but there's just not enough room. So that's what it looks like, and you're gonna have to get that 32mm in there. Now I may use a pipe wrench to take it off, because I'm not really worried about damaging the old one. but putting the new one on, you don't want to do that if you can avoid it. All right, so there you have it. Okay, so the tie rod is removed, and what I did was I marked with a piece of tape the center of the outer tie rod end, and then I took a piece of tape down to the other end of the inner tie rod end, and at this edge I creased it. And I'll use this to establish the distance of where I locate this this outer tie rod end on the new rod, so that the alignment will be as close as possible. Okay, and I'll use the same piece of tape on both, because you have to take the outer tie rod end off to remove the dust boot. And then I'll put the dust boot on the new tie rod, and we'll reuse the same piece of tape to measure the distance that I screw this outer tie rod in to adjust the alignment. And then we'll go to alignment shop and get it fine-tuned. And that's how you do it. So to take the outer tie rod end off, there's a 19mm nut, and there's a 19mm nut location on the outer tie rod end itself. So you use 2 wrenches to take off, to loosen this nut so you can remove the outer tie rod end to remove the boot. We'll do that now. And once you remove the nut and tie rod end, you can take off the dust boot. You take this and put it on the new tie rod. Now I can use my tape to determine how far to screw the tie rod in, the outer tie rod in on the new tie rod. So you put that there, and this is supposed to be from the center. From the center. So it needs to go in about 2 more turns. So we're going to go like this. 1, 2. And I'll measure it again in the center of that to there. And that's pretty darn close. Pretty darn close. Okay, so I'll tighten it up like this, and then I'll put it back on the car. Now this is ready for reinstallation. Now you can watch me install the new tie rod in. Then we'll just give it a little crank with the wrench. It'll be tight, and we'll do the other. After removing and installing the inner tie rod end, we noticed that the outer tie rod ends were not in very good shape. So we went ahead and got new outer tie rod ends as well. Now, because I had already installed the inner tie rod ends, to locate them, we simply measured 5 inches from the center of the old outer tie rod end, and then made a mark with tape so that we could put the new tie rod in approximately the same location, and thus not overly mess up the alignment. So that's what we did for changing the outer tie rod ends.